Well, I think AI helps you generate footage. So if it's replacing anything, it's replacing, the function of that. Everything else, so writing the story, you could use AI to write a story. But I think it would be hard to see that through all the way to the end, because I'm not sure you would understand what your end goal was. But I'm certain people are using AI to write a script and then executing it. I'm not sure that the results of that, would be as able to connect with the audience as like intentional work might. And I might compare that to abstract painting versus, realism. And not that I don't appreciate abstract art, they're different forms. And I think the intention is what determines whether an abstract work is good. And I also think like the ability to connect by being able to portray human stories in realism makes it easier for a wider audience to connect with that. And so I think using AI, you have to still have an intention, and then you have to follow it through and reach your end goal to be the author of it.
Hello, my name is Aryeh Stenrberg. I'm a co-founder of the OMNI International AI Film Festival, and I'm here with Robert Gaudette from the winner of our OMNI 1.5 Hyperphantasia Film Festival, and just an incredible creator telling stories. And I'm actually just going to turn it over to Robert. Maybe you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, and what's the name of your dog there?
I've got two. I've got Winnie and Clara. So I'm hoping they'll behave. They're my co-workers.
Fantastic. Yeah, so Robert, just a little bit about yourself and why do you think you're here?
Yeah. Well, I'm a Canadian, former photographer. Spent some time also working in tech and in nonprofits. For the past 3.5 years, I've been doing AI full-time, primarily in pre-visualization and pre-production. A lot of that based on, the maturity of the tools. And now that we've hit a point where, I think the tools have become really useful for storytelling at a quality that, audiences seem to respond to, I started to work in short film and, create a little episodic series as well. And I entered your festival and had a good result.
Excellent. The film, The Face Only a Mother Could Love, for those of you who haven't seen it, it's available on YouTube, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So we'll share the link to that. But I think, in the OMNI tradition, we curate a range of films, and in our selection process, even just for the nominees, there's a certain level of quality and an understanding of what it means, and there's a difference between taste and quality. Taste is very subjective, but I think from a quality perspective, we can all agree and see something and say that is of a certain quality. How do you feel about your decision making when you're creating your content and that application of the lens of, who is this for, and how you decide when it's ready to be shared?
So I started the short film primarily as a personal project. I began it with the intention of using it for some marketing for my own business, and only really when I finished it did I realize I had something special. And, based on that, I decided to take a shot and to enter it into your festival. And I didn't really know, what the outside perspective would be, because nobody had really seen it or had critiqued it or judged it. But for me, I was aspiring to push the tools as far as I could push them in terms of getting an emotional performance. That was the goal of the whole exercise, and to showcase what you can do with these new tools in terms of storytelling. And it was a successful experiment. I mean, I was really pleased with it at the end. Early feedback was that it was, really quite impactful, that it did seem to allow the audience to connect emotionally. And so I entered into some festivals, and here we are today.
Did you have a sense that you had hit on that sort of emotional touch when you finished the film and watched the finished product, or was that an intention going into it when you told the story?
So I knew the story was good. I knew the arc of the story, but I didn't really have the details, all sorted out. I knew what kind of story I wanted to tell. I wanted it to be a love story about somebody who had a hard life for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
And so once I iterated the character, then I filled in all of the details and fleshed out all of the characters. So when I finished writing the script, I really thought it was a great story. And I thought the story had the potential to connect with people. And then only once I began generating, and while I'm generating, I'm keeping a rough assembly. So I can go back and watch it for flow. Once I got 2 or 3 scenes in, I thought, I'm really impressed with the performance that, I'm being able to generate that's, coming out of Seedance 2 in this specific case.
Yeah.
And I think that lit a fire in me, because I actually started to see, what it's like for the past years. You have high ambitions, and then you fight the tools and you don't quite get there. But in this case, it's the first time I was getting there and really getting what I wanted. And sometimes even unexpectedly more. So to me, I mean, that made the whole film better because I got really excited, to finish it and, to put the polish on it. So, yeah, I mean, ultimately, I think you have to start with a good story, and then these tools are here to help you visualize that as any other artistic medium is. And I think only in the last few months have we, hit a benchmark where that's really possible and people really can connect with it.
Yeah. I've got a question around the general kind of state of filmmaking that I'd like to come back to, but with regard to the character that you created, I couldn't help but feel when I watched it, and I watched it a few times, and I shared it with my parents, and I shared it with my wife, even my daughter, and everyone just said this is something special, and I think there's that immediately you're not watching an AI film, you're watching a story unfold, and here's this character that you can't but help connect with, and there's a movie from my childhood you may have heard of called Lucas, which is about, this kind of young football guy that tries to have a football team, is kind of an awkward guy, and just, he kind of has a sad ending, unlike yours. But I just felt like, there's a little bit of Lucas in all of us. I thought your character really represents so much for so many people. What you said about just the tools being able to extract and draw out, just both the technical accuracy of consistency across characters and voice, but also just its believability. I think, and what we saw in many of the entries was that barrier had been broken, and I think Seedance 2, I think the latest Kling version, really 1+2 really did some amazing work. The filmmaking, though, is the interesting one, and I think that some of the pushback that we get is that, AI is going to be taking away jobs from the film industry, and we definitely feel that it's the tool that's behind the creator, and having that knowledge. What is film? What goes into a good film? How do you understand when to cut camera? Everything that goes into it. But what do you feel about that?
Well, I think AI helps you generate footage. So if it's replacing anything, it's replacing, the function of that. Everything else, so writing the story, you could use AI to write a story. But I think it would be hard to see that through all the way to the end, because I'm not sure you would understand what your end goal was. But I'm certain people are using AI to write a script and then executing it. I'm not sure that the results of that, would be as able to connect with the audience as like intentional work might. And I might compare that to abstract painting versus, realism. And not that I don't appreciate abstract art, they're different forms. And I think the intention is what determines whether an abstract work is good. And I also think like the ability to connect by being able to portray human stories in realism makes it easier for a wider audience to connect with that. And so I think using AI, you have to still have an intention, and then you have to follow it through and reach your end goal to be the author of it. There's all kinds of content that's generated every single day in traditional media and AI that its goal isn't necessarily to connect. It's content, it's about marketing, it's about maybe spectacle and different things. So we just categorize things, and so we're talking about like film and cinema specifically. I think it starts with story and it ends with story. And we've been told that for the last 100 years, and it's funny, the narrative has suddenly changed when the tool is AI. And we just have to get over this hype cycle and the fear. And we will, because we've seen disruption like this in the industry, maybe not at this scale, but many different times, especially in film. CG was a big one. Even if you look in terms of, if you look at a format like, or an art form like anime, and you compare it to live action, I think it takes far less people to create an anime film, even though there's many, many illustrators, than it does to create a live action film. Yet we still respect and honor anime, and we don't have this job disparity conversation about those two art forms. With AI, part of it is the media narrative. If you're writing an article and it's going online, it needs to be a bit of a spectacle. It needs to be divisive in order to get people's attention. It's just the age we live in. I would hate to be a journalist in this day and age and have to try and capture audience attention and things. And I think some of those voices just get louder than, the other more calm, rational discussions on the subject. I was thinking recently, if you looked at the number of studios producing films, in the last couple of decades, and the number of people that they hire, and use that as a barometer, long term, I see the volume of AI filmmakers growing exponentially all over the planet. So instead of 100 or 200 major studios, we will have 1 million plus filmmakers that have the ability to tell stories and produce high quality content. If each of those creators each works with a creative team, did we lose jobs in that trade-off? I don't know. We're yet to see how that equation, works out, and how far will AI develop in terms of automation? Will we get to a point where AI can just on demand create you a film? I don't think so. I think that's one of the weak points of AI, in terms of having a viewpoint and having human experience and being able to write stories that will connect with an audience based on the human experience. But I think they'll be great at doing some other things. I think you'll certainly, if we're on the cusp right now of being able to create your own brand commercials, almost fully automatic, your social media content. But is that really that different than what's happening now, based on the formulaic layout, even in, some filmmaking and some studios, everything's become so controlled and formulaic that the room for creativity has really shrunk over the last while. Anyways, I guess my point is that a lot of the criticisms that we're seeing about AI already exist about traditional media. It's the fear of job loss and disruption that I think is overhyped at this point. And we just need a longer time frame to be able to, see what happens. Everything's so new. We really don't know how this works out. and we see people planting flags as to their viewpoint on it, way too early.
Yeah. No, it's always, this is truly a case where there are two things I hear. It's early days, right? And it's, we haven't even seen or know what's coming. And then the other one is, this is the worst of the quality of what's coming up. It's only going to get better from here, and that's definitely been continued. You mentioned something interesting, and I think format and audience come together in interesting ways. We have, in China, these micro series and these micro dramas, and South Korea that have kind of exploded, and they started as more just a new format, and actually Japan is where it really started. But when you go from, a 25-minute show to a 15-minute show to a 10-minute show, now to 2-minute micro dramas or micro series, and then you look at the tools, and Cdance can produce, the new Cdance, I think over a minute of footage with dialogue and with sound and the entire production and cuts and everything. Like, without, like, if you can produce a minute of content and it's editing for you and doing everything for you, and you can drive and design how that goes, where are we going to go? Like, what's next? And then probably what's next in general, what's next for you with the change of the tools?
Well, I think in that situation, if you were to look at, if I were producing a film and I had $100 million to do it, I think it would be very similar. I mean, I would have basically unlimited access to talent, human talent. I would have unlimited access to people that could take my idea, execute it end to end, and deliver a film. And then we would still have to troubleshoot it and problem solve and do all the legal and logistics. And I don't think AI will ever get to the point that it can handle everything. Yeah. And just upload the script and go. I think curation is really important. And that's the problem I see in automation currently, is it can give you something, but it's the human eye and taste and curation of every single shot, every decision made through the process, including editing and sound engineering, that really is where the film comes to life. And I think if you're not responsible and you're not hands-on in that process at every stage, I think it goes back again to authorship. Is it something you created, or is this a machine creation that you just started the process on? And I think we'll have both. I think this mimics very much what we already have. I think you have formulaic driven content where you get a script and it runs through this series of individuals and comes out the other end. And then we have auteurs, and then we have cinema, and we have things that are very much crafted, where every decision is made creatively and weighed. And I think we'll see that. And I think we've always had it, and I think we'll continue to see it. We'll just see different pipelines of how you get from one to another.
Absolutely. That was great. I have one more question, and it kind of, we mentioned cinema spirited. Part of the OMNI initiative is to take the films that we've curated and brought together and bring them to the cinema. And I was listening to a podcast on The Verge, the Vergecast, and they were saying that some of the young people, I think it's really much more an American phenomenon than anywhere else, but I think could spread, is that people are kind of anti-AI. They don't want to use it. They're going back to the cinemas, they're going outside to nature, they're doing things. But this return to the cinema, and the clear indication, it's not if, but it's already happening, where the AI tools are, being used in different aspects of cinematic production. Do you think we'll see a future where people are not using AI, but they're happy to consume it? And particularly moving from, the long attention span to short attention span, be willing to watch short stories like the ones you produce.
Yeah, I think it's a natural reaction. And I think what's really interesting to me, and this might be my own tunnel vision, but it seems the overall conversation about the dangers and benefits of AI is really getting focused on to media generation because it's the most visible way to see what's happening. To me, that's the least dangerous spot that we need to be concerned about. I'm not pro AI in every realm of life. I think we have encryption issues coming up. I think that we have a lot of issues with surveillance coming up and warfare and like really, really serious topics,
Absolutely.
that we need to really have the big arguments over those issues. AI filmmaking, I look at it like it's a separate category. And it can cross over and be used in very different ways. The same way that, we have animation, we have live action, we have hybrids, we have animation and live action together. It's a mix. I see AI as a category of animation at this stage. And the audience will find itself. People that like watching AI film and like the novelty of it, or like the stories that are connected to the artists that are creating there, will become the audience. The problem online is every conversation has to be either or. That AI is going to devastate live action. Not true. That AI is going to, make every cinematographer unemployed. It doesn't have to be either or. This is our own thing here. We have our own category in AI filmmaking. Live action is never going to go away. The same as people are still shooting on film.
Absolutely.
So to me, it's a natural response, especially by a younger generation, to rebel against, what the coming trend is. And it's, we went through this in photography. When digital photography launched, lomography and film photography went through the roof. It's, hey, I want to be counterculture to this movement that's happening. And I love analog. We all love analog. I think we only move digitally because it's cost effective or it's.
Oh, I just lost your sound. You just went on mute.
I must have misclicked. But for me, that was the only avenue to visualize this story, was to do it in AI by myself, because again, it was just a personal project. I didn't have a budget set for it. I didn't think about having a team because I was just playing. So yeah, to me, I feel very calm about all of this in the media generation space. I think we're so early on, we're still in the knee-jerk phase because none of us know what's really going to happen.
Yeah.
For the Oscars to come out, or for any award show to come out and say that use of AI will disqualify someone, to me, that seems really premature. Why don't we wait to have an AI film that's of Oscar caliber to have that conversation? That seems meaningful and a rational way to approach it. But again, it's the news cycle and it's the buzz and it's a lot of attention generation for people to take very extreme stances on the topic.
Absolutely. Just to finish off, is there anything you're working on you'd like to share? Is there anything new you'd like people to have a look at? And can we expect another entry in our next OMNI coming up soon? Yeah,
I have four short scripts that I think are of the same caliber. Now, can I visualize them in the same way? Like, can I get as many gifts on these that I did on A Face Only a Mother Could Love? I hope so. And they really are written for the festival circuit, because I love that audiences get to see these films in person many times. The communal experience of watching something together, we are losing that. So when I hear that people are going back to the cinema, I think that's wonderful, because it's very different. It's like watching a concert or being at a sports event. It's that interaction between you and that communal experience of participating in something that really is where the magic is. So the fact that, big screen, small screen, whenever a group of people get together and watch a film, especially if it's something that you've made or a story you've written, I think is really special. So of course, I want to continue down that path. And I also think that there's another chapter coming for Marcel. I'm going to be pitching it as a feature. I've written the treatment of how I plan to get to feature length. There's so much that we have not explored in that world.
Yeah.
Once I get everything together, I'm going to be pitching it for development. I'm also starting a studio with a partner, Kirk Hipkiss, who has 20 plus years in broadcast production experience. So he knows all about all of the nitty gritty in the areas that, that I don't know anything about, claiming tax credits or, entertainment lawyer. So we're going to make a good duo. That's happening in the next month. And I have another feature script that I'm trying to finish that I think, is a really unique story. For me, it all begins with story. That's something I've always been able to do, with anyone can grab a pen and a piece of paper and write your story. And then it's what do you do with it from then? And then it's up for the world to decide, whether it's impactful or not.
Fantastic. No, I couldn't agree more. We show our festivals only in person, and it's really to give people the opportunity to see it and then talk about what they saw. It's both. You're watching AI films, as also you're watching films. What did we see and how do we feel about that? Robert, thank you so much. This has been fantastic. Lots of quotable moments. Really, I think what you're bringing out and what you're sharing, and is just, a leader and I'll say a visionary. It's been amazing just to hear about your journey, and also I can't wait to see what's next. Fantastic.
Thank you very much. I mean, everything with the festival was fantastic. A+ on my end, communication, interest, support. So everybody get your submissions in for next year, and even bigger and better.